And that's a
Now-
disappointment when you fuck a guy for over an hour and he just go.
Did anybody recognize you from film in the industry? They did? Okay. Okay. Well, I just came in. You gotta do what you gotta do.
You are such an advocate. One thing is what I love is I love seeing a lot of the beautiful women that's in the industry as sex advocates.
And I would set up crystals on their body based off of their chakra. And the crystals, what they do is if they sit long enough, they begin to like permeate through the body. They begin to expand through the body and they create a grid.
I shot with John Q too. You know, John Q, you know, I was the first big girl, but he did his side, you know, his side. Yeah. But that nigga, I would, and I have given my last time to people. I've given when I should have just watched. And it's not always about giving financially. It's giving your space and your time and your energy.
So that's kind of like a 50-50 answer, what I got. That wasn't really a yes or no answer.
I think I actually would, and this is of course the therapist in me, I would be asking them, like, tell me how this is celibacy for you.
So what's first there?
I shoot them just like I would be shooting a regular female. So you don't put the emphasis on that, so it makes it more consistent with the title of being transgender woman.
I have a good friend. She lives here in Atlanta. I met her on a porn set. She wrote a book called From Porn to the Pulpit. Now, I won't say she was like this super. Yeah, she's my best friend. She's my best friend. Her name is Danielle Williams McCord. She wrote an amazing book called From Porn to the Pulpit. She's been preaching for 10 years now, but I met her on a porn set.
In any business that you find yourself in. Because definitely for me, like, you know, creating a product to push to the consumer, and for me, everything was consumer driven. If they didn't want it, I'm not going to make it because I knew it
felt like if we kept our head a little below the sagebrush, that we would just be able to keep on going without any interference or anything like that. But you know, that's
like, dude, I'm sitting in like the dressing room, like just with all the 20-year-olds and 22-year-olds, 25-year-olds. I'm like, how old are you? Oh, I'm 25. I'm like, how old are you? I'm 23. And I'm like, dude, I'm 30.
Before I leave the house, I feel like the last look. You know, this is how I feel, this is what I'm thinking, you know. Now, when I get out and interact with other people, it's going to be what it is.
Right, okay.
Welcome to a podcast like no other. Get ready for insightful conversations, diverse perspectives, and a touch of inspiration. This is Ask Nyomi, Bridging the Gap podcast. Join your host, the dynamic Nyomi Banks, as she delves into the heart of various topics with a refreshing blend of curiosity and wisdom. Each week, tune in as Nyomi is joined by special guests who bring their unique stories and expertise to the table. It's a journey of discovery, learning, and growth. And let's not forget about the one and only dog pound Mike, adding his flavor and flair to the mix. Together, they make a dynamic duo you won't want to miss. From thought-provoking discussions to moments of laughter and joy, Ask Nyomi. Bridging the Gap podcast offers a space where great topics meet amazing guests. So, mark your calendars, set your reminders, and prepare to be entertained and enlightened. Join Nyomi Banks and Dog Pound Mike weekly for an unforgettable podcast experience. Get ready to bridge the gap, expand your horizons, and immerse yourself in the world of Ask Nyomi. Subscribe now and stay tuned for a podcast journey like no other.
Hey, my beautiful people. Well, it's your girl, the goddess Nyomi Banks here on Ask Nyomi, Bridging the Gap podcast. This is where we talk about love, sex, relationship, cultural differences, and so much more while bridging the gap between them all. But today we are diving into a topic that might sound unfamiliar, but is truly transformative. We're talking about touchless orgasms. Yes. And here to help me on this journey, I am honored to have a very special guest. But before we bring her up, we're going to take a quick break. But guess what? What's going on, Dr. Mike?
It's all good, all good.
You ready for this topic?
Oh, yeah. Touchless. I'm ready.
You ready?
I got some questions.
You sure?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay. All right, my BTG crew. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Y'all ready for this topic? Y'all ready for the topic? But before, get your questions together and ready, because Miss Jenn is ready to answer your question. But we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to get into this touchless orgasm pleasure. All right. It's your girl, the goddess, Nyomi Banks, here on Ask Nyomi, Bridging the Gap podcast. And we'll be right back.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good. So I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
What are some common barriers that prevent people from expressing? Hey, it's your girl, the goddess, Nyomi Banks, here from the Season of Self-Love podcast.
Yeah, I would say remorse. So shame and guilt is a very dividing emotional.
Now, these are one of the many amazing conversations that we have every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Season of Self-Love podcast with myself, Nyomi Banks, as well as our resident therapist, Dr. Will Washington of Washington Wellness Institute. Come by.
The reality of our relationships with people.
Come by.
And a lot of times we're afraid of how people look at us. And so that compassion can't enter.
You can hit us on the
So
website,
really
the Season of Self-Love podcast.com. Let me ask you this. With the truth, is it... All right, well, welcome back. It's your girl, the goddess, Nyomi Banks, here on Ask Nyomi, Bridging the Gap podcast. And today we're talking about pleasure and touchless orgasm. Today I have a very special guest. Her name is Jenn Wodtke, and I hope I pronounced her name right, her last name right. But Jenn is a touchless orgasm coach who has dedicated her work to helping women awaken their sexuality in the most profound ways. We'll be exploring her personal journey, the magic of touchless orgasm, and how we can all expand our pleasure and our healing of sexuality. You won't want to miss a second of this conversation. So, Dr. Mike, let's get started, all right?
Okay.
All right, so let's bring Miss Jenn to the stage. Hi. Yeah. How are you?
I'm amazing. How are you?
Thank you. Ooh, listen to that voice. I think I'm going to have to get my voice deep like yours. It's very sultry and sexy. Oh. So, Jenn, first of all, how do you pronounce your last name?
Wodtke.
Wodtke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have never got that.
Yeah. You know. I have no expectations.
Well, again, thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. And I am so excited to learn about all of your experience. So let's start here. So by reading your story and hearing about a little bit of your upbringing, can you share before growing up in a conservative Canadian, how huge of an impact of your relationship with sexuality? And can you tell us more about how that shaped your journey?
I think sexuality has shaped my whole life, but I wasn't aware of it when I was younger. I think I was really sort of numbed and turned off and just wasn't in touch with that part of myself.
Right.
And I think in a lot of ways, women sort of in our culture aren't really raised to be in touch with their sexuality, to be sort of connected to that power. And so I really grew into my sexuality, for lack of a better phrase, later in life. And in a lot of ways that has been a blessing, but I was a virgin at 25, and that was like that it hurt me at the time, but now I'm like, oh, I can look back and see some of the positives of that. But there was a really big sort of disconnection with my sexuality. And I don't know, I look back and I go, man, like, what could I have accomplished when I was younger had I been tuned into and in touch with that well of power? I think our sexuality is fundamentally such a power source for that fuels all aspects of our life. And I just sometimes wonder, I was like, man, what would I have accomplished had I been more connected with that from a younger age? But that just wasn't my journey, right? So
So now at 25, so you was a virgin all the way up into 25.
Yeah.
We're just gonna get into it. We're just gonna get into it right now, because I have to. I don't want to assume anything. Like, if you lost your virginity at 25.
Yeah.
Before then, were you? No, let's go back. What was that experience like? Because I'm assuming that experience caused you to go to where you want to do pleasuring of yourself and touchless orgasm. But go ahead. I'm stepping above it, but go ahead.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, it was such a big thing at that time. I was like, oh my God, nobody's interested. That's the thing. I was like, nobody's interested in me. Like, I don't have a relationship. Like, there was just this cutoff. I think in hindsight, at the time, I would not have said any of this, but there was a bit of a sort of a cutoff from myself. Like, I wasn't connected to myself. And so I was looking for, I think, sort of like an external validation. I was like, why does nobody want to have sex with me? Like, right? And there was a lot of amazing things that came from not having sex until that much later in life. Like, I don't have any, I escaped a lot of sexual trauma as a result of that. Like, I didn't have any, experiences of people pushing me past my boundaries, trying to get me to do things that I didn't want to do because I was that much older. So that part of the journey was really, really great. But like I said, looking back, there's just this like, man, I was just disconnected from this amazing well of power. I think power is pleasure. And I was like, man, I just didn't connect with that when I was younger, because it didn't happen for me. And so be it, right? Like, that it is what it is what it is. It worked out how it worked out. But yeah, I look back and I'm like, man, that was kind of crazy how that went down for me. But I found my personal journey. It's like, once I connected to my sexuality and to pleasure, like, my world has blown open, right? Like, I have gained so much from living in my sexuality and connecting my sexuality in a way that is like so authentic to me and so powerful as a result of that.
Yeah, which is probably the best thing that you did, wait. That you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you younger, you say this late teens, 18, 19, whatever age it is, you're really not in touch with your body and what turns you on or anything like that. And the last thing that you want to do is to experiment with somebody who is not going to respect your body because you don't even know it. So you at 25 going further on, now you be able to know what womanly things about you that you enjoy and understand, and what truly turns you on, where you can be truthful and authentic with your sexual needs. And I can say that because I wasn't able to really tap into and understand who I was sexually until I got into the adult industry, and I was like 30 something years old.
Yeah. And I think that's so fascinating, right? I think women have this, it seems this sort of like this later in life growth into that seems to be quite common, right? And I think that's really fascinating how women in their 30s and 40s seem to connect with their sexuality in a way that is like super powerful. And it's not to say that if you're younger, you can't do that, but from my own personal experience and I've seen with my friends, like, there is something about getting into your sexuality in your 30s and 40s that, like, getting into who you are sexually in your 30s and 40s, that just seems like it's chef's kiss, right? When women like just come into that and own it later in life and just are who they are and ask for what they want and get what they want, right?
Yeah.
So,
you know, like you said earlier, it's more of validation. And what I mean by that is that when we're younger, we're told, you know, that if you do this, that you fast tell such and such, and you're supposed to save yourself for, you know, marriage before you even go, you know, too deep into that. So any kind of sexual action, especially when it comes to women, and you do that before, there's a shame that is put on you. What's it called? The scarlet letter. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as women get older and they embrace, those that embrace who they are, then they're able to embrace their sexuality a lot more, to where they're not worried about what anyone else says, and understand that our sexuality and our sexual being is a part of who we are, as long as we're doing it responsibly. And when you mentioned before about doing it younger, there's something, that's where education needs to come in. I remember in the 5th and 6th grade or something like that, I remember we used to go to this thing every year. You started at 4th grade and you went from 4th to 8th, and it was the Robert Crown Theater. Whoever is from Illinois, from Chicago, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It's called a Robert Crown Theater, and they take us in there and they tell us about sex. But it was once a year that we do that. Once a year that we do that, and we go in there and they tell us everything from how this happens, the fallopian tubes. They separate the boys here and the girls in this room, and they tell us about sex. And of course, the parents had to sign permission slips before we could able to go in that. But I myself thought it was great, because honestly, my mother was like, just don't do it. Nothing else. There was no about how, you know, how I was going to be when my menstrual came. Like none of that I got at home. I literally got that at the Robert Crown Theater. Seriously.
Yeah.
So, you know, sex education, sex language, sex attitude should be taught to respond. You know, understand what I'm saying?
Totally.
In the home as well, where it's healthy, where kids know not to say, no, I don't touch that, you know, so we can have that correct language with it. You know what I mean? So women, as we get older now it's more, you know, acceptable for older women to be sexy and to embrace their sexuality and just be, you know, as we call them, goddesses and sensual. You know, I'm doing like this, right? I'm trying to get your voice for a minute. And it's funny because Dog Pound Mike might look at him here like, but you want to say something?
You know, so I'm from Chicago too. I'm glad none of the young girls I've messed around with went to that Robert Crown thing. But I'm from the West Side.
So you said it was a South Side thing?
I guess it was.
So let's go here. So what got you into doing? First of all, explain what it is.
Yeah, touchless orgasm. So my own personal journey was I had this orgasm in my sleep in my early 20s, and it hasn't happened a ton. It's been a handful of times my whole life. But the first time I had this orgasm in my sleep, I had no place to put it. I didn't get my sexual education in this like massive theater like you did. But it was there. It was really lacking in a lot of ways, in the sense that lacking in a lot of ways, period. So I knew that men could have wet dreams and all of that. Like that had been taught to me, but there was no discussion about women's pleasure. And so when I had this orgasm in my sleep, I was like, what? Like, what? This is a thing that can happen? Like, you know, I went and talked to my girlfriends, and they're like, are you sure you weren't actually just rubbing one out and didn't realize it? I was like, no, I wasn't touching myself at all. Like, this is totally in my sleep. And so there was I had nowhere to put that. Like, it was it seemed such an anomaly, right? Yes. Like, we don't discuss women's pleasure. We have zero pleasure education in our society, which is an absolute shame. And when pleasure is discussed, it is often in the context of men have an orgasm, men ejaculate, women get pregnant. And there was no talk about what women experience, right? I think I learned about the clitoris from Cosmo magazine, right? Like, it wasn't in my education, which is such a shame. And And so this experience seemed so kind of anomalous that I, kind of just like put it in the back of my brain and didn't really think about it too much. And then when I got into more of my formal training as sex educator, sex coach, and all of that, I was like, wait a minute, like I did that in my sleep, right? And I was like, the power of the mind is so powerful, right? It's like, if I did that in my sleep, it must be possible to learn how to do that waking. Like
awake.
For me, there was something there. Like I always made the connection. Like if I can do it unconscious, like I must be able to do it consciously. But like I said, no pleasure education, even in much of my training, until I got into my most recent sex coach certification. And I'm going through all the practices and I'm doing all of my training, and I'm like, wait a minute, like my homework is to like masturbate and like to get in touch with myself and all of these things. And I was like, I was like, this is going to get me there. And then like it's such a great memory. I went to a live retreat as part of my training, like in a room full of like 80 women. We're doing these practices, I'm like naked, hands at my sides, and I'm like, oh my God, I am going to come. Like, I just need 10 more minutes. And so I didn't come in session with these women because I needed a little bit more time, but it just sparked that memory of that this is possible. And it was so life-changing, right? Like, oh my God, this is possible. Like, I am on the path to be able to do this waking. And so I went home and I was like, okay, can I replicate this without the energy of like 80 amazing women who are in touch with their sexuality? Like there was something on that energy, right? I was like, can I do it at home when I don't have that? And so I started playing with it and I was like, yep, I can do it at home alone in my living room. This can be taught. And I think that's one of the tragedies of our sexual education is knowing that our pleasure is very responsive to practice. It's a skill. We can grow it, we can direct it, and we can really engage with our sexuality, our pleasure, our orgasm as a practice for growth. So once I got home and realized like, oh my God, I can do this. Like, can I teach people to do this? And I was like, yep, it can be taught. People can learn how to do this. And that's just where I was like, oh my God, like this is my gift to the world. This is what I'm put here for. Like, I need to share this with people because I think it's so powerful, right? In the sense that it's a paradigm shift. Like typically we look for pleasure from the outside in, the outside being, partners, toys, hands, which is all well and good. Like you will never take those away from me. But the shift that happens when you put that aside for a moment and you look inside yourself, you start building and experiencing pleasure from the inside out. I think that is supremely powerful. Like, what is more powerful than to know that you can connect with and find your own pleasure inside of yourself to the point of orgasm if you choose? Like, it's just... it's amazing. It's such an amazing tool.
Right. So how long would, if just say you were going through a session with someone new, specifically new, what will be the steps or the techniques, and how long would it take for that person to get there just through your coaching?
Yeah. How long is such a hard question to answer because it really depends on the person's unique sexual ecology. Like, what are you coming in with? Like, we all have conditioning around sexuality and pleasure that takes us often in our society out of full pleasure. So it's like, what do you have in your life and in your experiences that we need to, there's a lot of unlearning, I think, that needs to happen. So it's like, what is in your way? So I kind of think of it as, we talk about what do you want to experience? And you don't have to experience touchless, you don't have to want touchless orgasm, right? Like if you desire that, you can go for it, but you don't have to, right? Like it's not a requirement in life, right? So whatever your pleasure and orgasmic desires are, like, let's decide what you want to experience. And then we look at what have you experienced. And then there's this huge gap, right? It's like, what is in the middle of that? Like, what's in your way from getting you to where you want to go and what you want to experience in your pleasure and orgasmic life? And that's where the hard work comes in. So touchless orgasm in and of itself is really a very simple concept, right? It's that I call it the activated mind. So we are deliberately putting our mental awareness on our body, right? So it's mind, body, like what can I feel in my body? What is alive? What pleasure am I experiencing in this moment? And then we build pleasure with that. And it's really that simple. It's body, mind, pleasure building. But where it can get difficult is everything that's everything that's in the way. And that is where it's really impossible to say how long it will take for any one person, because somebody might have, a ton of religious trauma or conditioning, like women are not allowed to be sexual, right? Women's bodies are sinful. Like they can have that conditioning. They could have any amount of trauma or experiences around why they cannot and should not experience pleasure as a woman. So the hard work is that it's digging all of that out, all of that unconscious shit that's in our way. And that is so unique to every person.
So, because I'm deep down like listening to this, right? So, last season we had a couple that came on Tantrum. We had them to come on here. How is there a difference, or is this kind of sort of in the same feel of with Tantrum?
With Tantra?
Yeah. Tantrum.
Yeah. My training is very informed by Tantra. And so what I would say fundamentally, what I do in my work is we really reconnect with the body. And so many of us have sort of numbed ourselves. We've lost our connection to our body and to our sexuality. So a lot of the work is to really build that mind-body connection and to be in the body and to really feel what's there, like feel what is alive in your body. So it always comes back to the body, right? The body keeps the score, right? The body stores our traumas, the body stores our history. So we really have to go in and work inside of our physical body before we can achieve like what I think is the infinite pleasure that is available to all of us. But we have to go in and we have to rebuild that connection for so many of us.
Right. So your ideal client,
Ideal client.
Who's your ideal client?
My ideal client. Oh my God, I feel like so many of my clients are my ideal clients. And what I love about the ideal client is that they come in and they will do the work, right? So we'll go through a session and I'll give them unique homework based on, their own journey and what they want to achieve. And they're just gung-ho and they look, I think the ideal client is somebody, here's the thing. I think when we numb ourselves to our pleasure, when we're disconnected from our pleasure, it's often through the lens of there's a lot of pain there. There's a lot of numbing there. So the ideal client is somebody who is willing to look at themselves, look at everything that's in their way. And this work isn't easy. I want to be very clear about that. I know touchless orgasm sounds really, really clickbaity. There's so much deep work, and the ideal.
It seems like a lot.
Yeah,
of
totally.
Yeah, a lot of mental, a lot of healing.
So the ideal client is somebody who is not going to look away from themselves, right? You're gonna because you have to deal with everything that's there, and that's where like I said, that's where the hard work comes in, right? And that's where a lot of people don't do the work because you have to look at your shame. You have to look at all of the beliefs that you have taken on, and like, where do they come from? Are they mine, or do they come from the church? Do they come from a school? Do they come from my family? So somebody who's willing to come in and look at everything that they've built in their life, and they are willing to face it and look at it and not look away from themselves. That is so key. Like, if you can look all of your shame and all of your shit in the face,
yeah,
you will be able to achieve massive transformation as you move into this pleasure. That's the biggest thing, I think.
Okay. Discovery call. Your discovery call, because you offer discovery. What does a discovery call look like? What are the questions? What are the questions that they need to answer before they can get into a session with you?
Yeah, I want the key thing is, what do you want to experience in your pleasure orgasmic sex life? What have you experienced? And then we start sort of diving into what is in your personal ecology, like what is your gap? And it is a lot of sussing out, are you going to do the work, right? Like I do have some clients who come, we have a really great session, and then I check in, I'm like, did you do your homework? And they're like, no, I don't have time. It's like, okay, like if you can't, and like I said, it is hard work. It is really hard emotional work, and I still get coached, and I still am sometimes left sobbing on my fucking living room floor. I'm like, are you kidding? Still. So if a client can't do that, if they're not willing to go into themselves and to uncover what is there, and to just go through that muck, they're not going to achieve the results that they come to me saying that they want, right? Like, if you want to achieve whatever it is in your pleasure and orgasmic life, like I have women who are like, I can't orgasm from penetration, and that's what I want to do. Great, great. We can work on that. But if you're not going to do your homework, if you're not willing to look all of your shit in the face, you're not going to get there.
Can we do a mock? Can we do a mock thing? Can we do it? We got to keep it a little PG, but I am very interested in doing the mock. You know, so can I play with you for a second?
Yeah, totally.
So I'm a new client on Discovery, right? So I'm getting ready to give you my, and I know it's probably hard, like, for real, Nyomi. I'm coming in as a virgin. So I don't have an answer to what my pleasure is that I want. All right. I don't know. I just know I watch TV, and I watch those skin flicks, and I see them, ooh, ah. I want to feel that inside. How can we get there?
See, but you do have the desire. You want to feel the ooh, ah, right? So we would go into, like, what does that mean to you? What do you want to experience? What does that mean to you physically in your sexuality, in your sex life? And what does that mean to you emotionally? Like, what do you want to experience inside of that? Like, what is that for you? Is it that you want to?
Well, you know what, Coach Jen, I really don't know. I just see what they do on camera, and that just, it looks like it's exciting. Something that I've never touched myself. I never, anything like that. I come from a very religious background, so I don't know exactly what it is that I'm supposed to do, but I know that there is something more that in my being, that my sexual being, that I feel like I could do, but.
So why haven't you touched yourself?
Because I was told that you're not supposed to do that.
Okay. And so you see these sex scenes on the screen in movies, and you want that.
Yeah, it looks like it's very, I guess, pleasing.
Yeah. Okay. So are you okay to touch yourself? You're not sure?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because
that's
you are
okay.
offering touchless. So I just figured if I wasn't, I'm thinking I'm not sinning if I'm not touching myself.
Yeah, we can absolutely, if touching yourself is completely off the table, we can work with that. We can start there. Yeah, and what gives you pleasure in life would be my next question.
what gives me pleasure is really just serving others, just making sure everyone is happy and being able to, help people along, just, loving people, period. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what do you want in a relationship?
I want in a relationship that they can just be in addition to who I am already.
Oh, I love it. That's so good.
Yeah, that they can be in addition to who I am already. But I still want that intimate connection with myself. Yeah, and they just are an addition to it.
Okay. I have my brain's like in my head, like running all these practices and things that we would do. So what we would do in in a session is I find in a session with a client one-on-one is different from touchless orgasm because it's so unique to the client.
Mm-hmm.
So in a one-to-one coaching container, we would really dive into essentially finding and following your pleasure, touchless or not. It's like what is alive for you? What is in your way? If you've been taught to never touch yourself, it's like there's a lot of teachings that are in your way, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you were taught that like you're not allowed to engage with your own body because it's sinful and that's not allowed, like that is and that's very, very common, right? There's a massive unlearning that needs to happen there. And we can do it touchless or not. I find touchless orgasm for a lot of clients is sort of almost like supplementary to their pleasure. It is its own standalone sort of system, but fundamentally people want to engage with others sexually, right? So touchless orgasm, I find, is a tool for that, right? So if you are able to, and I can do it, excuse me, I can sort of do it at any time, right? Because I've been doing it and I've been training myself. So I'm sitting here in front of my computer right now. If I just sort of just like close my eyes and like,
and you have an orgasm right here.
I can focus. I'm like, okay, like what's happening inside my body right now? Like what's happening deep down? I'm like, okay, like, and I can choose, and I think that's the key, right? For anybody to be able to sort of just like drown out, like pause out whatever's happening around them and be like, no, what's happening inside my body? What's happening inside my pleasure? Like I said, I'm like, okay, what's happening? What's happening right now as I sit in my chair? It's like, oh, she's sort of sleeping. She wants to be wrapped in a warm blanket right now. Like she doesn't want to have like this huge orgasmic experience right now. She wants to be like cozy and nourished, right? But there are other times where, I'm sitting in my chair and talking to somebody and I'm like, let me just check in. And she's like alive, right? She's like, everything is happening. She's like, I want to play, I want to go, right? So that is super key, is to be able to tune in to whatever is happening in your body in the moment and to work with that, right? And there are going to be times, right, where you don't want to be sexual, you don't want to have an orgasm, right? It's more like for me right now, it's just like cozy and warm, like I just want to snuggle. But there are times where you want to be able to harness that, right? So if you can go in and be like, okay, what's happening right now? I have a partner, in the next room waiting for me. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to find that and I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to play with it and I'm going to like bring it up, right? I feel like pleasure, if you're in tune with your pleasure, I feel like it's almost always simmering just below the surface, right? And that's, and see, I just got as I'm talking about this, like, I just got a message like, she does want to play. Like maybe once we turn the camera off, I'm going to go have some touchless fun. Because there is this pleasure simmering. So I think that's the key, right? It's like being able to connect with that at any moment and to follow that wisdom of your pleasure and your body, right? So being able to direct it if you desire to be with a partner or by yourself for an orgasm or simply pleasure. And listening to the wisdom of the body. And that's a lot of what it is too, right? It's like, what does my body want? Like there is such a wisdom and a knowing deep down in pussy that is related to pleasure, definitely, but is also just like this this fountain of who we are and what we want. Like there's just such an innate deep wisdom in our pleasure and our sexuality that once we harness that, it's life-changing.
Good. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Have you coached men? Can men do the same thing? And I know like they have like what is it called? Why my brain is on in the morning. What happened when y'all get the little woody in the morning? What is it called? I'm sorry.
Wake up with wood on.
No, but they call it something else. I'm a little stuck right here. Right.
I'm thinking morning wood. Is that what he said? I couldn't quite catch what he said off. Yeah, morning wood.
But you understand what I'm saying? So even as you're talking right now, and I kid you not, I'm kind of doing something in my own mind, where I feel myself tingling. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's kind of like what I'm putting a picture in my mind. So why I'm saying let's do this mock is because there's a lot of people don't understand exactly what this is. Do that touchless, like what is she talking about? You understand? So I want you to be able to explain to them, or this is how we get there and this is how we do it. So me even saying to you that I'm a virgin and I was told not to touch myself and such and such and such. Now this is where this is truly a mental and emotional and spiritual thing. It's coming from here, to here all the way down to where you can feel it there. Yeah. So even if you having no sweet talks, like even your voice, you understand what I'm saying? Even your voice is so soothing and smooth, and just sultry. For women, can you tap into that? Can you become to where that, feeling, from that to where it will make it tingle down there? And it's make it tingle down there.
Yeah. So if I had to describe sort of a beginner practice, and the first thing I want to say is that a lot of us are numb, right? A lot of us are not going to initially be able to like feel anything. And that is totally normal. It's totally okay. We can work with that. Like it will grow. So anybody that's listening goes like, I don't know what she's talking about. I can't feel a tingling if I just think about, put my awareness on my pussy. I can't feel anything. Totally normal. You will grow that awareness.
Right.
So one of the sort of first practices that I tell people is you can do this before you get out of bed in the morning or before you go to sleep at night. When you're laying in your bed, you sort of just like, you want to be in that relaxed state as much as possible. And you just sort of, you do a body scan, right? So you sort of, I've closed my eyes right now because I'm like getting into it. So you take a few deep breaths, let yourself relax. And then you do a body scan head to toe, right? It's like, what am I feeling? What's happening in my body? Like, and I move down, like face. It's like, okay, I've got some tingling in my shoulder. I've got some heat in my back. There's some tenseness in my back. And then you do that. You move all the way down, like just what is happening in my body in this moment. And then you focus on your genitals. It's like, okay, what is happening in my genitals right now? What can I feel? What am I experiencing? Right? And if it's numbness, that's totally fine. But you're just going to continue to put your awareness on the genitals and you breathe. And you just continue to focus on your genitals. And bringing that awareness to that part of your body for a sustained amount of time, even if at the start there's numbness, that starts the process of waking it up, right? And then fundamentally, like I said at the start, touchless orgasm is really mind, body, and pleasure building. So once we put that awareness on our genitals and we continue to do that over and over and over again, it like truly morning and night, 5 minutes, like that is an amazing start to your practice. Like to connect with that daily is so powerful. And then as you begin to sort of build that sensation, then we start to be like, okay, what do I feel right now? Okay, I feel a little, especially if you've moved out of numbness, it's like, okay, I feel a little bit of whatever it is. It's like tingling or throbbing, champagne bubbles, hot, cold, prickling, whatever it is. It's like, okay, I'm just going to breathe with that. And I'm going to visualize. We do a lot of visualizing and it's so powerful. Like our mind, it blows my mind. It blows my mind what our brains can do, right? Like we can create realities in our brains, right? Like we can fantasize, we can create a situation that we desire to experience. And our mind creates it, and our body experiences it as real. Like that's the power of our mind, right?
Yeah.
So we use that over and over and over again. And that's one of the biggest things in the touchless orgasm system is like we build these pleasure fantasies almost, because a lot of us, they're not real initially. But if we use them over and over and over again, our body doesn't know that it's not real. Like our body experiences it as real. And so over time, again, always depending on where any one person is starting from, we eventually are going to be able to connect with whatever is alive in our genitals. We're going to be able to grow it. We're going to be able to enjoy it, and we're going to be able to circulate it to whatever experience we desire. Maybe it's not touchless orgasm. Like I know there's a lot of people listening out there like, I don't feel like I need to put in the work to do touchless orgasm. Totally valid. You don't have to. But being able to connect with that pleasure in your body and to be able to grow it and direct it is hugely powerful. Everybody can do that. Men or women. Everybody can do that. And to your question, who do I work with? Coming at it, orgasm and pleasure as a cis het woman. I primarily work with women because that's the body that I live in and that is my experience. I haven't experienced pleasure from inside of a male body, so I don't feel fully qualified to support men on that journey for that reason. But they are fully capable of touchless orgasm as well.
Okay. Now I just asked that question because I have a lot of male viewers just listening right now. And even when you were just talking and you closed your eyes, it's something that I used to do when I used to have my OnlyFans. And I used to have to, at the end of my live shows, shame on me, at the end of my live shows, we all used to kind of come together. But it's usually from, me talking with them and kind of, guiding them to that ultimate release or climax, if we say, coming, to that. So even with the touchless thing, I think it can be done with both men and women, as you said, from that. Because as I said, just me sitting here and just talking and understanding, I've opened up myself to be able to go through those motions right now. My legs are crossed right now, so I won't get too hot. But, this the thing that happened. And it was something that I was going to say, should we do this? Should I have, my BTG crew? Because I see all of y'all in here, everybody just raise your hand like this. And, we just go through the motion where you can talk us in, I'm saying, like take us from head to feel, what do you feel right now? Such and such and such. Girl, let me tell you something. You just gave me something new to do. A new service. I'm gonna be right along with you. I and sultry voice on real good. We can be touchless.
And it's so funny. When I first started teaching the course, one of I offered live practices, live in the sense that I would guide. Everybody would come on Zoom, right? And they'd be cameras off just for everybody's, privacy. But I would walk them through sort of like an hour-long practice, and I would, guide them into like getting down into the body and doing all these things. And I kind of didn't really realize how important that was, because the feedback was always like, oh my God, like we love the live practices. Like, and there's something about having a voice in your ear that that you can just, like you're directed, but you're still like in the privacy of your own home. You set up your space, but somebody directing you into this experience that is so powerful. And I love being guided too, but all of my clients are like, oh my God, we love the live sessions, right? So so I do Touchless Orgasm live practices. We do some sex magic, and it's super fun.
I bet it is. Right now I'm laughing because right now I'm looking at the comments in there. Somebody said Nyomi gonna bring OnlyFans to our podcast. So they was in one of those sessions. But it is beautiful. So this is what I want to do. I want to do this. If you don't mind, we're going to open up our streamlines. If anybody have any questions, I guess, would you open to answer some questions?
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. So we're going to do this. Dr. My Mac is going to put up the link. We're going to take a really, really quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to have Miss Jenn answer some questions here on Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast. All right. It's your girl, God is Nyomi Banks here on Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast. We will be right back. What are some common barriers that prevent people from expressing? Hey, it's your girl, God is Nyomi Banks here from the Season of Self-Love podcast.
Yeah, I would say remorse. So shame and guilt is a very dividing emotional.
And these are one of the many amazing conversations that we have every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Season of Self-Love podcast with myself, Nyomi Banks, as well as our resident therapist, Dr. Will Washington of Washington Wellness Institute. Come by.
The reality of our relationships with people.
Come by.
And a lot of times we're afraid of how people look at us. And so that compassion can't enter.
You can hit us on our website, the Season of Self-Love podcast.com.
Are you ready to transform your pain into power? Join us this September for the 30-day Healing Beyond Betrayal Challenge, From Hurt to Hope. Starting September 1st, embark on a journey of healing and self-discovery. Each day, you'll receive empowering lessons, practical exercises, and supportive community connections, designed to help you overcome the hurt of betrayal and reclaim your joy. Don't let betrayal define your story. It's time to rise, heal, and rebuild a brighter future. Sign up today at theseasonofselflovepodcast.com.
All right. Well, welcome back. It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here on Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast. And I am here with Touchless Pleasure Coach, Miss Jenn. Thank you. That first segment was fun. It was, and very informative. Very informative. So are you ready for this? Are you ready for, these
Yes.
questions? You are?
Yes.
You ready?
Bring it.
Let's bring them on. Hey, Rock Hard.
Hey, what's happening?
Hello, can you hear us? I'm good. How about
I can
yourself?
Can you hear me? You can hear
Yes,
me well?
we can hear you.
Y'all
Yes.
good?
Yes.
Oh, peace.
Yes.
What's going on? How y'all day going? How's y'all Thursday?
It's going good.
Good.
It's going good. It's going touchless, man. Touchless.
Touchless Thursday. Yo, that's a fire topic though. Like, I like the topic that y'all talk about. I came in a bit late though, but I like the topic though. Touchless orgasm. Like,
yeah.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, when it comes to that, mind you, I didn't get to watch a lot of the show. I came in late. Like a woman's voice, that's included as far as touchless orgasm, correct?
Her voice?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Totally.
Okay.
So
that's one thing when it comes to a woman. Like, no, go ahead, Naomi.
No, go ahead. Ask the question. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say because it's like that's like one of a major turn on when it comes to a woman. It's like her voice. It's like if you can have a voice that can stand out for others, like that's always was attracted to me, like her voice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm going to walk y'all into one of my dominatrix sessions that I used to have. And I did not
Please.
allow them to touch themselves. No. So by the sound of my voice and just by the energy of us being in the room together, you should be able to come erect at attention. And if you don't, the session could possibly be over.
Oh, wow.
So the tone of a woman's voice or the tone of a person's voice, whatever that it is, and that energy that's connected with it, it can be, when I tell you right now, Miss Jen, you just put a whole bunch of light bulbs in my head. All the stuff, I'm like, I was out of this. That's what I'm telling you, I'm just tingling all over, just truly all over. But for you, like Rock always has a lot of questions and stuff like that. But for him as a man, this is my question to you. I know the answer, but my question to you: are men more sensitive when it comes to touchless than women?
Ooh, I feel like yes. I haven't worked with a ton of men, but I think if a man is able to harness his sexuality without touch, like, oh my God, I'm already like melting just thinking about it, right? Like a man that is in touch with his sexuality and can connect with it without having to touch himself, like, is so incredibly powerful and so hot. Like, there's something about just being able to watch somebody be able to just like sink into who they are sexually that is like so powerful and such a turn on, man or woman. Like,
yeah,
yes.
Self-control.
So rock hard.
Yeah.
Rock hard.
Yes.
I'm coming at you right now because it's been a minute. It's been a minute. Do you think you can do that? Do you think that you're yourself, if you're more into yourself and disciplined to yourself, that you can have a touchless orgasm yourself? Rock.
A touchless, just being honest, I don't know. I don't think I could. But at the same time, I never thought about that though.
What about you, Dog Pound Mike?
I never thought
I gotta get touched. I'm like Diana, touch me in the morning.
But truth be told, it's like I said though, it's that self-discipline. It's like you asked that question: do you think a woman could can a man go through it like a woman? And honestly, if you ask me, I think a woman could be more sexually disciplined than a man could. If you ask me, so
yeah,
it really comes with that discipline. It's like,
they can have that rock. Yeah, they can.
Like, yeah.
They can have that discipline, Rock. That's cool.
My co-host over here, Dog Pound Mike. Yeah, he's truly the rough of the he's a so I don't think he even understands the discipline of anything sexual.
but also like men wake up sometimes with morning wood, like men get hard in their sleep, like, and that's what it is, right? Like, it is that ability to come alive sexually without touch in whatever way it is, right? And like I said at the start of the show, my first experience was in my sleep. So if you have experienced any of that, like any, morning wood or wet dreams or whatever, you are capable of touchless orgasm, 100%. And I think it's another tool in the toolbox, right? It's not like I get, like, absolutely, like, everyone wants to be touched, totally. Like, I'm not saying put that aside. It's another tool to expand your erotic potential.
Yeah.
But would that really count though? But the The example that you used though, would that really count? You said more than wood, because it's kind of like you waking up to it. So is that really self-discipline, or because it's like you waking
I
up?
wouldn't say that that is self-discipline necessarily, but it illustrates that you are capable of doing it. Yeah, exactly.
Because you already there. So now, you know what I'm saying? Like you know
I understand that, but I'm always there in the morning. Then I reach in my toolbox for some lube or some lotion.
I knew you was gonna go there.
That's what's in my toolbox.
I knew he was gonna go.
Bro, honey with it. He wasn't even gonna let y'all have that one.
I knew he was gonna go there.
Credit dog like nah. That's funny as hell.
All right, Rockhart. Well, thank you, baby. Welcome back. It's been a minute. But
most
thank
definitely.
you.
Most definitely. I'm glad to see you back strong. I'm glad to see you're still doing great things. And I also see you on your workout list, man. Keep it up. Definitely.
Thank you. I'm working it.
Going.
I'm working it. The sister working it here. But again, thank you, baby. Thank you. Thank you.
And I like your guest today, because definitely y'all be good.
All right, baby. All right, guys, it's your girl, the goddess Nyomi Banks here on Ask Nyomi, Bridging the Gap. We are still here with Miss Jenn, and I'm gonna keep calling you Miss Jenn because I don't want to hack her your last name. I do not.
It's all good.
I can't do that to you, baby. I really cannot. So do this for a favor for me. Please tell them where they can get your services from, your website, and everything like that.
Yeah, so they can find me at jennwodtke.com, JENNWODTKE. That is also my Instagram. That's my website. And right now I have a freebie on my site to get started with Touchless Orgasm. And I'm in the midst of completing a book where people will be able to, for $5, get the entire Touchless Orgasm system and be able to work through it at home at their own pace. So do check me out and reach out, shoot me an email. Email DM. I'm so happy to connect with people and hear their stories and offer whatever support I can in any way that people need. So,
right, beautiful. If you had any last words to tell my listeners here, BTG crew, what would it be?
What would it be? It is that there is an infinite and endless amount of pleasure and orgasm available to you. But it's up to you to take the steps into that pleasure to receive it. It's there for you if you take the action to get it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, again, thank you. We are wrapping it up. We have come to the end. It went real quick, didn't it? It went, but thank you for sharing your talent, the information. Like I said, I'm a little woozy over here myself. You got my mind going right now. It's good. It's amazing, and I would love to bring you back on in the future as well. Yeah,
it'd be amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah. To my BTG crew and the listeners out there right now that you're listening, I want to thank you guys for tuning in here to Ask Nyomi, Bridging the Gap podcast. You know what we do here. We have so much fun here, as well as we do talk about some serious topics too. You know, even though we talked about the touchless orgasms and all of those things and stuff like that, but still we want you to be responsible when doing these things, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. You understand what I'm saying? And if you got any advice that you want me to do, email me at asknyomi@gmail.com, and we will see y'all next week. But as I always say, be good to one another and yourselves. And hey, it's the goddess Nyomi Banks, and I hope you enjoyed that last episode of Ask Nyomi, Bridging the Gap. And if you did, please like, subscribe, press that notification button, as well as comment. I'll see you next week. Keep it sexy. Ask Nyomi, Bridging the Gap. This is where we talk about love, sex, relationships, cultural differences, and so much more.